Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Carrow Road for some Monday night football, which is a rarity these days in the Championship. It's something we typically associate with Premier League, but it is a team hoping to be in the Premier League next season in Coventry City, who roll into town at Carrow Road this evening for a game that is going to be, I think, really interesting test of where Norwich City are at. We can now bring you the team news, which I'll flash at the bottom of the screen. Two changes for Norwich City this evening. They line up with Kovacevic in goal, Fisher, McConville, Cordoba and Krizene as the back four, Matson and McLean, the midfield two, as is well established. Tony Springett retains his place on the right, Ali Ahmed on the left, with Anis Ben Slimani, unsurprisingly after that performance at the Hawthorns, in at number 10, with Jovan Makama up front. The subs bench for the Canaries, Dan Grimshaw, new signing Harry Amas makes the bench, Stacey Darling, Jacob Wright, Mate Jurasek, Oscar Schwartau, Papa Amadou Diallo, and Matthias Kriskoren. So I'll just run through that for you again. Norwich City have Kovacevic in goal, Fisher, McConville, Cordoba and Krizene as the back four, Matson and McLean, the midfield two, Springett and Ahmed on either flank, with Anis Ben Slimani earning a start behind Jovan Makama. The subs bench, Grimshaw, Amas, Stacey Darling, Wright, Jurasek, Schwartau, Diallo and Chris Gorham. So that is the Norwich City 11. Probably unsurprising, really, given the nature of that win against West Brom, and also the halftime change that Philippe Clement made, with Harry Darling dropping out, Jose Cordoba coming in, and Anis Ben Slimani taking Oscar Schwartau's spot. Maybe a little bit harsh on him, given he scored in that position, but there we go. Paddy joins me for. We'll come on to what this game is for him always, but
a defeat.
What do you make of that Norwich City starting 11? Two changes, probably not too many surprises in there, all told.
No, I mean Slimani, as he said to you yesterday, when Charlton, I think, was the game he couldn't quite remember, but if you remember, Charlton was the game here over Christmas. Him and Jurasek started 45 minutes ineffective, came off. He was quite diplomatic that day, I recall, sort of more or less said they wasn't up to the rhythm of the game, but I think subsequently he wasn't happy with either of those players and what they produced, and we know that in both cases, but we're talking about Slimani coming back from long-term injury, and struggled to get up to speed, but credit where credit's due. In the intervening period, he's gone away, got his head down, done enough in training to get himself another opportunity or two, and boy, is he taking it. These last two games, what's he up to now? Is it 2 goals, X amount of assists? Yeah. That level of productivity pretty much demands he comes in tonight. You could say it's a bit harsh on Schwartau, but that's the nature of it now. If Norwich are going to drive up this table in the second part of the season, you need to look at that and think, well, it's tough on Oscar, but you can't really argue with it. And if he gets more of those pockets of selection all around the pitch, and we're looking at Ali Ahmed again in tonight and Papa Jallo on the bench, that could hot up to be quite a tasty mano-mano duel now over the rest of the season. And that's the only way they build on what is now some really encouraging consistency in terms of result and performance. And I think I'm looking through that 11. I mean, for me, Cordoba, I was slightly surprised that he came out at West Brom and Darling came in, but half time they made that switch and he's back in again tonight against the excellent McConville. So again, it feels like they're the best two centre-back pairing at the moment. So if they don't drop their levels, and that applies for the rest of this 11, then they probably merit retaining the shirt. But knowing that if they do drop off, there is now real serious options, and more players getting added all the time. Harry Amas on the bench tonight, and Paris Mahoma in the building. Not quite available tonight, but will be in short order, and that's what it's all about now. It's about improving the quality of player to Philippe Clement, so that hopefully he can really build on some strong foundations.
Yeah, I completely agree with that defensive partnership point. I think we've said maybe since our QPR game, those two really impressed that day, and subsequently have probably shown in terms of balance and in terms of how they complement each other, maybe the better options in there. We know that midfield too is pretty set. So it's the forward line again, isn't it? And I think after Anis Ben Slimani's performance at the Hawthorns came on at half-time, he described it to me post-game as what he felt was his best performance for Norwich City. I think everyone who saw that, whether they were at the Hawthorns or from afar, would be inclined to agree. It's a real opportunity for him. And you mentioned, obviously, Paris Mahoma, and we'll speak about that a little bit more later, coming in. He now has the shirt and the opportunity to try and nail down a position that he feels is his best.
Are we talking about that, Connor?
Anis Ben Slimani.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And And I liked that club interview he gave just before he kind of got himself in around the festive period, where he talked about it's been frustrating for him, but he's now got some real goals. He's got a club goal that he needs to impress Philippe Clement sufficiently to get in the team. He's doing that now. But also there's that carrot for him of personal level of trying to make Tunisia's World Cup squad. And he'll only get anywhere near that come the summer if he's performing for Norwich. And, that's, for anybody with Norwich persuasion, that's neither here nor there, but it is in the equation, because if that really is a carrot, he's only going to get to that if he performs regularly, and it's not enough to do it in a small sample. We know he's got real ability, but probably over the entirety of his Norwich career thus far, it's been the fitness issues that have held him back. I don't think anybody's looked at him in a Norwich shirt and thought he's not up to the task as a technical, proficient midfielder who has that goal-scoring instinct and the quality he's got in the final third. We've seen that. We saw it under Torrup, maybe less so under Manning, but we've now seen it definitely in these last 2 or 3 games under Clement. So all it is with him is if you can keep him fit, if his body can be robust enough to handle the load, both in terms of training and games, unless somebody else better comes in the building. And, of course, Mahoma might have something to say about that now in terms of that number 10 debate. But in the here and now, it's probably Anis Ben Slimani's shirt.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes tonight. Ahmed, obviously, a Carrow Road debut for him tonight. Both of his appearances, Wrexham and West Brom. Clearly, very positive start to his Norwich career. 1 assist and 1 goal. He'll be absolutely desperate, you'd imagine, to come out here tonight and to show what he can do. What do you make of Tony Springett on the right, Pat? Because, again, he was sacrificed at half-time of that West Brom game. It was 1-0 at the time. Norwich went on to win by 5. To bring this, I guess, to Schwartau, is it more confirmation of maybe what Clement has said previously, that now he views him very much as a 10 rather than as one of those wide options? And I guess with Diallo lurking, again, he's got to view it now as an opportunity to try and lay his claim to that particular position with competition externally, but also in the building coming back.
Yeah, I think anybody, and in a poor season, he has been very consistent, Oscar Schwartau, but it's not a position he looks natural in. You now contrast him in terms of a profile on the left-hand side of the 3 with Ahmed, with Jallo, very different. And I think we can all see that by the definition that it went out and got Ali Ahmed, that Philippe Clement wants that type of player in the wide areas. As a result, I don't think Schwartau is going to get much of a look in on the left-hand side now, and probably will now move into the central, both in terms of the 10 and maybe slightly deeper. But the point proven is about Springett. We had it a couple of times on the Q&A on Monday. Do they need to go and do something on the right-hand side? Because you look at Springett, you look at Jurasek, I don't think you see the same threat level as you do when you see Ahmed and you see Jallo in terms of getting the ball direct, commit defenders. Yeah, Springett's got that in his locker, but I don't think he's quite got, for me, the guile, really, of those 2 players. So, but as far as we're aware, that's not an area they're looking at between now and the end of the window. So it is going to have to be Jurasek. It is going to have to be Springett and maybe 1 or 2 others. Makama obviously can play out there if things were to happen in terms of another addition down the front end of the pitch. So, but in here and now, he trusts Tony Springett clearly. But yeah, I think you have to be brutally honest and say he's probably not in the same bracket as Jallo and Ali Ahmed. So but the way that Coventry is setting up, maybe they've seen something in, and we know what he's like in terms of his work rate is second to none, and he'll track back and he'll do his work out of possession, as Ahmed does, to be fair. But maybe they've seen something in trying maybe stop the threat level of Coventry on their left-hand side, which would explain maybe why he's gone with Tony Springett again and maybe not Jurasek tonight.
Yeah, well, let's bring you that Coventry City team. 3 changes for them this evening from the team that beat Millwall last time out. They've got Rushworth in goal, Van Ewijk, Thomas, who's back from suspension, Kitchen and De Silva as their back 4. Matt Grimes, who captains them alongside Victor Torp, who's back into the side with a very lively front 4, you have to say, of Thomas Asante, Mason Clark, Roman Esse, who obviously joined on loan from Crystal Palace earlier this month, and Hadji Wright, who's been in very, very good form. Their subs bench: Wilson, Sakamoto, Sims, Yang, Kessler Hayden back from injury, Bidwell, Latabodiere, Wolfenden, and Josh Eccles. I mean, Paddy, as far as Coventry gets, that's pretty full strength, isn't it?
There's Torp in there, did you say, Connor? Yeah. But no Rodoni. He's the only one.
No, Rodoni not in the squad.
I mean, for me, Rodoni, Torp, and Grimes, they're the best 3 in the division. Midfield-wise, I mean, as we all know how that game went at the CBS. Norwich got a draw that day, but they were a long way second best, and a lot of that tone was set by those three. And the rotations, I remember the fullbacks, Kellen Fisher, he was getting a torrid time that day. Just how they got overloads in those wide areas. Going back to my point about Springett, that might be in their thoughts tonight. And then you go further forward, and as a collective, I think that's as good as anything in the division. You know, the quality they've got, bringing in the lad Essay again. I mean, we saw what he was like at this level for Millwall. Cut above. Hasn't quite happened from at Palace going into the Premier League, but at this level, and he's already got off the mark, I think, for them since he came in January. That looks a very good bit of business. I think Joe Edwards, Lampard's assistant, who was formerly a Millwall manager, he knows him quite well. I think he's quite key to that deal. So, and as you said there, you know, right, I'm going to say competing with a certain individual who we won't mention, but I don't think he is, because I think he looks like nailed on for a World Cup spot. And like another,
well, he's actually playing for one.
Yeah. Did you see also Pepe, one of these other US forwards, is getting heavily linked with Fulham for big money? So we digress, but there's no doubt. And stating the obvious, look at the league table. I mean, they've had a blip, you could argue, over the festive period. They still come here, I think, 8 points clear of third in terms of the automatics, and they had an unbelievable first half of the season. And that tells you they have excellent players for the level. And in forward areas, they're as good as anything in the division. So that is the challenge tonight. But I liked Clement's tone yesterday. It was almost licking his lips. They've had a full week to prepare. They're off the back of that West Brom game. He's appealed for the crowd to get involved tonight. I think Coventry in numbers, I think 2,000 or so, full house, away end-wise. So they'll certainly be vocal. And who knows? I think it's going to be a cracking game and plenty of goals.
It is. Right, let's speak a little bit about the business that Norwich City have done this week. One involved, and obviously the other one confirmed. A matter of just under 2 hours ago as a Norwich City player. Harry Amas, the first on loan from Manchester United for the rest of the season, having spent the first half of the campaign at Stricken, Sheffield Wednesday. He's arrived just to provide some left-back cover, and that goes to show, I think, how fluid and flexible the transfer window can be, because I think at the start of January, nobody had a left-back on Norwich City's radar, but Lucian Mahovo's injury, which we're expecting to keep him out for a significant period, but probably not quite the whole season, means that Norwich have been left with Ben Krasene as their only option. So clearly they had to do something there. And then the other one in the last couple of hours, as Paddy has spoken about a couple of times, Paris Magoma from Brentford, who is an attacking midfielder, who struggled with injury a little bit, but had a really good loan spell at Bolton a couple of years ago, where he was named their Young Player of the Year, and that basically ticks the box for where Norwich City are at with a number 10. What do you make of those two additions, Paddy? I mean, we were at Hillsborough, obviously, for that game. When would it have been? November time, I think early November. I remember being quite impressed with Harry Amas that night, in terms of, you looked at that Sheffield Wednesday team, which is in a very difficult spot, a lot of youngsters, and Barry Bannon, basically, who is, I don't think he's going to be there for much longer either. So a really difficult situation, but he did kind of stand out that night for me in terms of his robustness and his willingness to engage with some of the physicality in the Championship. Yeah,
well, I can't confess to have a forensic knowledge of his game, but you can't help but be impressed. Some of the content the club have put out, how confident he is. You know, that, I think it was the training session video, and also, you know, his interview. I mean, you're 18 and you're playing in United's first team, in terms of you have had exposure, European exposure as well. You don't lack the confidence. I think he said, actually, in a quick fire questions, one word to describe him, and he said confident. And that may some take that as slightly borderline arrogance, but I like that. A young player is backing himself to go out. Not an easy situation, as we can all see from afar, going in at Sheffield Wednesday, but he played, I think, 21 games. That's great experience for him in a very difficult environment. Physically, he's not the biggest, but I like. It feels like he's got that power to his game. You look at him, he's a very stocky individual. So I don't think anything in terms of the Championship's physicality is going to throw him. And for me, if he's at United, he's got to have some technical ability. So I liked the Clement line about players who were almost in his ear after the first training session. Almost, this lad is going to be good for us. So thank you. Let's hope they continue. Let's hope that, you know, the early vibes are positive, and not to discount Ben Krasene, because, you know, he gets the nod again tonight. And going right back to what you said at the start here, competition, top end of the pitch, competition at centre back, and in the absence of Mahovo now, probably for the most of the season, then rest of the season, then Ben Krasene knows he can't let standards drop, because if he does, there's a high grade option waiting in the wings who has probably played more Championship football than Ben Krasene, if I was to go back and look at the amount of games this season. So he's ready to go, and it'll be interesting, you know, when Philippe decides he wants to expose him. You know, would he give him a taste of it tonight, or Is it just be in and around it, and then maybe at the weekend go to Middlesbrough, don't they? So, but as I say, what's happening there? The legend is Steve Grizovic has just gone head over, coming up the gangway.
Styled it out nicely.
Oh, what a legend he is! But so, looking forward to seeing him. Yeah. And then to tie that in with Mahoma, it's another young player. Obviously, one's a loan, one's a permanent. I have to drill into a little bit more about the injuries. I watched a bit of that content you sent me earlier, and I think he's had 2 hamstrings, hasn't he? So, because he talked in that video earlier I think it was October time, about how he thought he got back and then he re-injured himself. So, of course, there's that, I'm sure, in the back of a lot of City fans' minds that, is this another, not injury prone, but a player who's been beset by injuries? But Norwich surely have done their due diligence on that. What isn't in doubt is you look at his every step at England age group level, he was involved. You're not in that environment if you're not got something about you. And then Brentford took a chance. Maybe they feel that they've moved on in terms of where they're at now, what they're trying to do in the Premier League. But you speak to anybody connected with Bolton, and he had a fantastic loan spell there, and he was very key at getting them to Wembley, I think, in that playoff season. So yes, it's a level up, of course, but a permanent deal for a young player with a lot of pedigree in the right hands now under Clement, we hope, with a reputation and a track record for developing young talent. That could be an exciting one, and he'll probably need a bit of time to acclimatise, but I think it's just another signal, really, where they're driving this, whether it's Atanasio, whether it's Napa and his team, whether it's now Philippe Clement, that alignment, young players. Maybe it hasn't quite happened for them elsewhere, but they come in, Norwich can improve them, and then by definition improve Norwich's status and going up the league. So that's the plan, and this is another clear signal that's what they're trying to do in terms of their recruitment.
Yeah, and I looked down that list, particularly that Norwich bench at the moment. You foresee another name coming out of that match, of the matchday squad today, in terms of Mahoma coming in. It feels like Norwich are getting significantly stronger, which it clearly was the aim of players coming back from injury as well. Just on Mahoma, I'll read you. I'm not going to do the accent, but I'll read you some quotes from Keith Andrews, the Brentford head coach, who said, "There's no doubting Paris's ability. He's a very talented player who's probably been frustrated with a lack of game time. Is it an age now where he really needs to go and play football? His talent should allow him to have a really good career. So we wish Paris really well at a very good club." So that is what Keith Andrews had to say on it. And then just before we get to predictions, Paddy, striker, is that obviously the Harry Amas one proves that it can change, and someone gets a big injury here tonight, and you might have to adapt and readjust. Yes, it is done. In the building, confirmed here tonight. We expect. But it feels like at the moment, in terms of that shopping list, striker now feels like the main priority from here.
Yeah, and obviously that's the name, because that's the name that's come out, and we're obviously in daily dialogue, and I've not seen or heard too much coming out the Norwegian end around Bodo. I mean, they've got a massive game, I think, this week now in the Champions League at Atletico Madrid. Real chance of progress now. He, as he showed last week against Man City, is integral to those chances. So for me, that doesn't move on any way, shape or form until post the Atletico game. Now, hypothetically, they can get the result there, and their road in terms of progression in the Champions League's over. That's still going to be a few days out from the domestic window. Could that move on? Possibly. All we know is that he's still an active target, but he's one of a few, because I think they feel now that has increased the difficulty of getting this deal done. But what they do hope is that relationship that they've built with him and his advisors has been a lot longer than any clubs who are now looking at him in his Champions League exploits. I've seen him linked to Besiktas. I've seen him linked to Spanish clubs in the last few days.
Everton, I've seen mentioned.
You've seen Everton? Well. There you go. It's inevitable, though, isn't it? So, but Norwich have been in from a lot earlier, and maybe you could draw a parallel with Chris Gordon. The homework went in from a long way out, built that relationship, built that rapport, sold them the vision. Financially, could offer them the package. It made it interesting, but as much as that is all, the groundwork is there. I think there's still a sense that probably Bodo hold the cards in this one, and until their Champions League fate is sealed, I don't see anything moving on that one. So yeah, but clearly that is now the one glaring piece of the jigsaw left between now and deadline night, which I believe is where are we? A week today, 5 minutes after the window closed.
Yes.
So next Monday, 7
There is
p.m.
deal sheets now in the FLM, but we won't go on to that. Hopefully we don't go there. Here is a question for you, Paddy, as we come on to predictions. Who are you really supporting this evening?
Who am I really supporting? I'm supporting my efforts to get a match report in the paper before the vans start rolling with a big hole.
Luckily, Forson's not in the squad this
don't worry. I've never seen. No, if you're a Norwich fan, you don't need to worry. I've never seen Coventry win this fixture in ever. 2009, I think, was the last time they won here, wasn't it?
At all.
There you go. So, as I told Liam Manning, you didn't really want to hear it, but I said, I'm a jinx, mate, so you don't need to worry. And sure enough, they got a draw there that day.
It's one of his better results, that.
Yeah, it was. Turned out to be, yeah. But, no, well, as anybody who's watched our podcasts, I have a 5-year-old who's green and yellow now, so I can't lose in my house this evening. But got to sit on the fence, haven't I, if we're going to predictions. But I do think it could be a high-scoring draw, in all seriousness. You, Connor?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Norwich, where they're at the moment, in a good place. Off the back of 2 really good results, you'd hope this place will be bouncing tonight in terms of the flags are out and with those results on the road. They've obviously lost their last 2 championship games here against Watford and Stoke, so it feels like they've still got a little bit of work to do at Carrow Road. But outside of the relegation zone, optimism, things looking up. Let's hope they can back that up today with a result. And if they can, you just sense that optimism and enthusiasm that has kind of established itself around this place in recent weeks will continue. So yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw this evening and a high scoring one as well, because you look at Coventry, they average over 2 goals a game. They let in quite a few though as well, and I think Norwich, as we've seen, have some real creativity in their midst as well. So perfectly poised, but above anything else, it's going to be a really interesting test to see how much Norwich City have progressed under Philippe Clement since his appointment in November. Big week. Coventry today, who are top of the league, and then a trip to Middlesbrough as well. A trip to Middlesbrough on Saturday, who are second and 3 points behind Cov. So as Paddy said, they looking to win today to extend that lead over Borough, but also more importantly, capitalise on Ipswich's misstep away at Sheffield United on Saturday, and I think they can move 11 points clear of third place tonight. So it's a big evening for those of a sky blue persuasion, and Norwich City will be out to try and hope to spoil the party somewhat. Pinkham.com is the place to go throughout the evening. All your coverage, analysis and reaction to this evening's game. 8 o'clock kickoff here at Carrow Road. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.